StraightSmile Solutions, StraightSmileSolutions.com, and today we're going to talk about what to do at the last aligner appointment. So most of my doctors, they get pretty comfortable with tracking and delivering aligners and what to do at the regular appointments, and then all of a sudden they get to the last one and they're like, what now? So let me kind of preface it and give you some suggestions, because you want to slowly get prepared for that last appointment and what comes next and get the patient prepared. So, and everybody does it a little bit different. So ultimately, hopefully you're seeing the patient pretty regularly, or you're using virtual check-ins to see the patient regularly. Usually, let's say for example, let's say it's a 30 aligner case, and let's say you're at aligner 25 and you're seeing the patient every 5 aligners, which would be every 5 weeks, right? Just for example. So when you get to that second to last appointment, aligner 25, you're giving them the last 5 aligners, assuming that there's no virtual power chain or overcorrection aligners. That's a completely different story. Never ever give those out unless you need them. Always separate the VPCs from the rest of the aligner chain, the connected aligners. Rip them off at the first appointment, put an X on them, and don't give them unless you need them, okay? So first tip. But that's only if you have virtual power chain. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably don't have it. All right, so you're getting to aligner 25 out of 30. You're at that second to last appointment. And of course, you should be checking all the regular stuff. You shouldn't even be proceeding unless everything is tracking like a glove. The aligner should fit like a glove, like a second skin. There should never ever be any space between the aligner and the tooth. If there's space between the aligner and the tooth, you don't even give out more aligners. You do a refinement, or you have the patient come in with all their old aligners and you find the one that fits and you go from there. Hopefully you're instructing your patients to keep all their old aligners. I always recommend giving some type of tackle box that's labeled. They shouldn't put them back in the baggies because they get moldy and then you can't use them. But in any case, if you didn't do that, then if things aren't tracking, you can only do a refinement. So again, assuming everything is tracking, if not, you shouldn't even be proceeding. And also, the other thing you need to check is the bite. Now, of course, if you're using distalization or elastics, then you should be checking the bite right and left, making sure you're where you're supposed to be, making sure you're class 1, making sure that they're using articulating paper, and making sure there's occlusion on every single tooth the way it should be. If you're getting a posterior open bite, do not proceed. Stop. Do a refinement. You're not even going to finish the aligners. You don't need to finish them. There's no point. You're just going to make things worse, and you're going to make the refinement longer later. Okay, it always cracks me up when I see cases where it was like, this is so off track. Can't you see there's like 5 millimeters of space, where the aligner is not even seating? Why are you still even going on? You need to educate your patient, and you as a doctor should be checking in as well. It shouldn't ever get that off track. If so, that's on you. But in any case, okay, so we're taking this hypothetical patient, which is 30 aligners. You're at the second to last appointment, aligner 25. Everything is tracking like a glove. There's no spaces between the aligner and the tooth, and you're checking with articulating paper, and you're seeing contact on every tooth, or at least it's the way it's supposed to be. And if you're doing class 2 elastics or class 3 elastics, you're making sure the bite is the way it's supposed to be, okay? So if I'm feeling like 100% at aligner 25 out of 30, and the patient's also happy, okay, that's all. The patient, remember, orthodontics is an art as much as it is a science. The patients get some say in how things move and how things look. And ultimately, of course, in my opinion, they should have viewed the ClinCheck before you even started the case, because that makes no sense if they don't, because then if they're not happy, well, you guys didn't agree on this ClinCheck, Then I tell the patient, hey, it's looking pretty good, How are you feeling about things? Give them a pause, give them a chance to respond, because this is where if they have an issue, I want to address it now and not when I think it's done. Oh, I love it. I'm super good. I'm so excited. Are we going to be done in 5 aligners? And they say, it's looking positive. Don't say yes. It's looking like that's possibility. You're doing such an amazing job with your tracking and being compliant. Thank you so much. We will give you the last 5 aligners, and here's what's going to happen when you come in 5 aligners. Okay. Again, we're going to double check, make sure everything moved as we anticipated. We're going to double check the bite. If everything is perfect, and you're also happy, I always like to say that, then we're going to do one of a few things. So this is where you go into your conversation about retainers. And this is the point where you'd want to talk about retainers if you hadn't talked about it before. And this is usually where I talk about it, unless the patient hasn't has brought it up in the past. This is where you're going to bust out your retainer menu. You should have one. Retainers should never be a one-size-fits-all approach. Retainers should be customized depending on what the patient wants and what the patient needs. And every patient needs something different. Remember, teeth are always going to go back. They have memory. They have muscle memory in the ligaments. They're always going to go back slowly to where they started if you do not have retention for the rest of your life in one way, shape, or form. You're going to start out full time and you're going to slowly phase it down. And we're not even going to go into that because I have a zillion videos on that. We're just talking about what you're going to do at this Aligner 25 appointment. This is where we're going to have that conversation. And so I usually say, if you've had a contract at the beginning that says if retainers are included and how many, then this is where you go to that. If you didn't address that in your start, I think you should. Usually I tell patients that includes one set of retainers, but more retainers are often needed in a lifetime, especially if the patient is choosing clear retainers. I usually say it includes one set of retainers, the type that is recommended by the doctor, and if they want something different, there may be an additional fee. I don't always put that in writing. I have put it in writing before, but usually I verbally say that. So I'll say, did you have a preference on a certain type of retainer? There's different types of retainers. We have metal ones, we have clear plastic ones, we have fixed ones. I'll say for you, what is included is, it's up to you. So, if you're going to use clear retainers, the Essex or Viveras, you're going to need more than one in a lifetime. And I never ever want the patient to walk away with just one because they feel like they're assessed and they need to buy more unless you've already built that in writing into the treatment plan. So I'll usually include Viveras as a set, unless it was like a super cheap case and this is something where you've decided and you've told them up front that they're going to need to upgrade. It's just a lot of times they feel like they're being assessed an additional fee. I think it's tacky. So, Viveras are the gold standard in retention. They fit really, really well. You come with 4 uppers and 4 lowers. That's what you need for a lifetime. If they need more than that, that's on them, And I think you get a couple years to reorder without even having to rescan. So all you have to do is push a button and you can reorder another set of 4. So that's really convenient because they store it in the cloud. So that, of course, is my favorite. There are other good retainers that you can get from any local orthodontics company. Or any local orthodontic lab. There's tons of orthodontic lab out there, or even any dental lab. They should know how to make retainers. That's always my question. Are they making it right? But you need more than one set. We want the first couple months, month or 2 for them to wear one set, and then we want them to switch to the next set because they start to stretch out and get weak and stuff like that. And it's not always visible to the naked eye. So it's going to be it's going to retain a lot better if they're switching them out. And then the last 2 sets they can use later as backup sets. So that's where we have that conversation. You figure out if there is an additional fee, figure out if there's an upgrade charge or not. Like I said, you should have a menu. You should be explaining to the patient what's included, what they need, what's extra, what you expect from them. If they want a bonded retainer, for me, unless it's medically indicated, if there was a frenectomy patient, or if they started with an anterior open bite, those are the 2 scenarios where I'll place a bonded retainer, or a lower incisor extraction. 3 scenarios where I'll place a bonded retainer, where I think it's probably standard of care for a bonded retainer, and then an S6 over it. If it's medically necessary, I've already built this into my fee, and I've already told them at the beginning that this is going to be part of the treatment plan. Beyond that, if they're asking for bonded retainers, for me, that's an assessed additional fee. $500, something like that. And I don't sloppy place bonded retainers. I have mine custom made at a lab and then the Essex over it. So that's double the work for me. It's also double the lab time, double the lab fee, and double the chair time. So there's gonna be an additional fee per bonded retainer if it isn't necessary, because it's extra work for me. And it's also, you need to be crystal clear as to how that's gonna work if the bonded retainer breaks, what's your warranty, and what's the cost gonna be to repair it. And when bonded retainers break, they're a real emergency and the patient needs to get in because things can cut, they can move, they can push out the bone. So you need to almost have a working list. So if they call and say my retainer broke, that's a bonded patient and that's an emergency, they need to get in. So anytime a patient wants a bonded retainer, usually you need to explain, how it's going to change their life. Now they've had Invisalign all this time where they can eat whatever they want. With bonded retainers, you cannot eat whatever you want. You can't bite into pizza crust. You can't bite into tacos with your front teeth. You shouldn't. Bagels, apples. You know, a lot of times once you tell patients that what they can't do, I don't want that anymore. So, you know, a lot of people ask for it and then they don't want it. So anyways, so you get the idea. So you figure out what type of retainers you're going to have, what's included, what if there's an additional fee, how it's going to work. Obviously, if you have an in-house lab and you can do some stuff, then it's going to change the sequence of appointments over if you're going to send it out. So in terms of instructions, I'm going to assume you do not have an in-house lab. So let's say you don't have an in-house lab and you're done. You think you're going to be done and you're at the aligner 25 and 30 is the last one. So then you say, most likely when you come in, we're going to go ahead and take your attachments off. And we're going to go ahead and take your final records. And we're going to scan for your final retainers. Now, if you have a kind of a janky in-house lab, like a basic stuff down machine, but not like a pressure biostar, not like a high-end thermoformer, then you can make temporary Essex if you want. And those are going to be better to wear than, and that's usually what I would do. Those are going to be better to wear, at least temporarily, than wearing the old aligners with the attachments off. The issue I have with old aligners with the attachments off is the teeth can move very fast. It's just not that secure. So I would rather they be in temporary Essex, even if they're kind of sloppy temporary Essex for a couple weeks. This is not going to be their permanent retainers, because we're going to replace them with a really good set of Viveras, you know, in 2 weeks when they come in. But at least it's going to retain better than wearing the Elastaligners. If you do not have access to even a kind of basic in-house lab at all, then they're just going to have to wear their aligners, you know, Elastaligners. And hopefully I'm hoping that you're putting a rush on the Viveras. I mean, obviously, if you're taking impressions, this might take 6 weeks. This is not a good idea. In that case, what you might want to do instead at that last appointment is take and scan or impression with the buttons on, have them virtually removed, and have a initial set of retainers where it's virtually removed, and then make a final set later once they're off. So this is an extra step for you, but it's just not as accurate if you take the impression or scan with the buttons on as if you take them off. And I want that final set or sets to be 100% accurate. Also, if there's calculus on the teeth or inflamed gums, this should never be the final set. You need to clean the patient up before the final set. You need the swelling to go down before the final set, or it's not going to fit well. You need to scrape the calculus off before the final set and have the gum inflammation be done. So you may need to do more than one set. Again, whether or not you're going to charge the patient is up to you. I generally do not, but ultimately that's up to you. But once I give them the final set, any other retainers that they need beyond that will be an additional fee. I let them know that some patients are going to need multiple, 5, 6, 7, 8 retainers in a lifetime. And that it's a good idea for them to go ahead and stockpile a few retainers. Now, anytime, and then you also need to be crystal clear if they're going to need any fillings or new fillings or anything like that, that they're going to need a new set afterwards, and more than one set, and that's an additional fee. So if the patient is of need of dental work, then it's a good idea just to do temporary retainers until you finish the dental work. And every time you do a new dental work, you're going to have to get another set of retainers temporarily. And that's going to be an additional fee. We're not going to include that. So I know I'm getting super complicated, but patients can get really upset if they're expecting something and then you're assessing them additional fees. So this is where upfront, or even if you're here at aligner 25 and you need a crown and a veneer and a filling on this, then you're like, hey, it's better that we get all this dental work done in one appointment, so that you don't have to purchase multiple additional sets. Now, of course, if I'm doing the dental work, which I'm not because I'm an orthodontist, but if you're a general or pediatric dentist and you're doing the dental work, you may give the temporary sets of retainers for free. That's up to you. If you're doing the dental work, it's kind of classy, but it's ultimately up to you, especially if you're the one that's billing for it. If someone else is doing it, forget it. I'm not giving it for free, definitely not, because that's not on me. So anyways, I know that was a lot of information, a lot of things to think about, but it can get complicated, and you just kind of need to strategize and game plan how it's going to work with the retainers, how the appointments are going to work. And it really depends on what type of lab you have, if any, what type of access you have, if any, to local. That's another option. If you have a local dental lab that comes and picks up and drops off and you do things in a day, this is great for the temporary retainers. You should use that as opposed to sending off and waiting a few weeks. But just remember, things can shift if you don't have really good retention. And a lot of times patients, when they think they're done, they're going to go ahead and not be quite as compliant. So always, always, always take your final records at this appointment, not at appointment 25, but at 30, before you even deliver retainers or anything. They need to be prepared to do the whole appointment, which includes final records. Never ever do the final records at the end, because a lot of times they're like, I gotta go, and then you don't get them. That final records is the most important part of that appointment. That and one other thing, which I'm going to mention in a second, because if you don't have those final records and if things shift, it's on you. You are redoing the treatment for free, or insurance can come after you. Dental boards can come after you. So you always take the final records first before you deliver the retainers. Always, always, no ways around it. And you always need to be crystal clear with the patient how long the appointment's going to take. Because sometimes they're thinking it's going to take 5 minutes, like an aligner appointment, and you say, no, it's going to take an hour and a half or an hour, and you need to, let us complete. We can only schedule this appointment if we can complete the whole thing. Other thing you need to do, I totally forgot. Patient needs to sign a form saying that they're happy with the treatment. I call this a congratulations form, and then they're ready to get their retainers. They understand their active treatment is over. They understand how it works with retainers. I also have retainer forms. These are forms that I have in my document store, and these forms are free for our VIP and concierge members, as many forms as you need. Or you can go into our document store and you can go ahead and purchase a copy of that form. The form I have for the debond form it was written for braces, and aligners are a type of braces, so I generally just use the same form. It just basically says, congratulations, your orthodontic treatment is done. By signing, you're saying that you're happy with your outcome, blah, blah, blah. You understand the retainers have to be worn, etc. You always want the patient to sign that. And if it's a child under 18, the parents need to co-sign it. We want everyone to say that they are happy with the outcome, as well, like I said, as taking those final set of photos. I also strongly recommend you take a final set of photos with the retainers in. This is super important. It's almost like an aligner tracking photo, because I can't tell you how many times I've done the debond, I cleaned up the glue, I delivered the retainers, I took the final records, we signed the document, patient goes, I give the instructions, all is good. Patient comes back a month later, teeth have moved. Patient says, oh, my retainers never fit to begin with. You gave me ill-fitting retainers ahead of time. Even the nicest patients, when they know, especially kids, even more so, but adults too. The kids don't want to get in trouble from the parents for not wearing their retainer, so they're going to basically lie to their parents and say it never fit. The parents maybe never even noticed that they did fit. They probably weren't paying attention. If you didn't have a photo capturing that those retainers initially fit, you are SOL. You are retreating for free, my friend. So this is why that photo is super duper important. I learned the hard way not taking that photo, and then I started taking that photo. So as well as the final records, because when they come in a month later and you see relapse, you say, hey, let's put those retainers on. Oh wow, I see there's some shifting going on. Put those retainers on, and they're not tracking, they're not fitting. And you're like, well, wow, it looks like you didn't wear them for a little while. What happened? Did you lose them? You found them? And 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you the truth. But sometimes they're like, well, I don't know, they never fit. Well, oh, actually, I have a photo here. Oh, they did fit. Oh, wow. So what happened again, And at this point, it's like, sorry, there's going to be obviously if it's an Invisalign case and we did the comprehensive, there's no lab fee for me to retreat. I'm going to say, okay, it's been 30 days. It's a good patient. It's been nice and respectful. Maybe I'll retreat for free. Usually I'm going to charge a couple $100s. If this was a light case or an express case or some type of white label case, we're going to charge a fee per aligner. If it's within 30 to 90 days, it's going to be a lot lower fee than if it was more than 90 days or more than a year. But, ultimately, this is why you have to be super, super clear what the expectation is. Retainers should be worn full-time for 6 months, bare minimum. And after that 6 months, then there's no complete algorithm as to how you phase them down. I have tons of videos on the scripting and how to decide how to phase them down. Do all patients actually wear them full-time 6 months? No, they don't. But if they do, nothing's going to shift. So, ultimately, if things shift, that's on them. It's not on you. And so any additional treatment should be at an additional fee, as well as new retainers. All right. Thanks so much.